Earth has fallen, with the greatest defenders wiped out by the ruthless androids 17 and 18. Humanity's only survival is hiding in the shadows. But what happens when a desperate experiment bends the rules of time itself? Pulled straight from his journey through the stars, the legendary Son Goku crashes into a nightmare future he never lived to see. Father and son reunited in the apocalypse. The ultimate collision of past and future begins now. "16 years after Son Goku should have returned from Yardrat, darkness covered most of Earth. Entire cities stood empty beneath smoke-stained skies. Highways ended in craters. Radio towers transmitted evacuation codes to neighborhoods that no longer existed. Androids 17 and 18 crossed the planet without resistance, destroying settlements whenever boredom drew them near. Beneath the ruins of West City, Bulma Brief worked beside an unfinished machine built from scavenged Capsule Corp components. 3 days remained before future Gohan planned to challenge the androids alone. Bulma had watched that decision forming for months. Each repaired gi, an unexplained absence adding another piece. Conventional weapons had failed. Gohan's strength had failed. Hiding had preserved fragments of humanity. Yet every shelter eventually became another grave waiting to be discovered. The machine offered one remaining gamble. Its unmanned probe would pierce the barrier of time, travel briefly to age 764, record temporal data, and return before its unstable field collapsed. Trunks crouched beneath the launch frame and locked the last fuel conduit into place. The 17-year-old had already transformed into a Super Saiyan during training, yet Bulma needed his hands more than his power. His fingers moved carefully through bundles of exposed wire, while diagnostic lights blinked across the probe's narrow hull. Across the bunker, Gohan stood near the reinforced door with one sleeve pinned against his left shoulder. The missing arm had changed his balance, his stance, and every technique he used. It had failed to change his refusal to carry the war alone.
People are dying while we feed power into a theory.
Bulma kept her attention on the control console. A grease mark crossed one cheek, and 3 broken pencils rested beside her keyboard.
People have been dying for 13 years. Charging into them again hasn't stopped it.
Gohan's boot shifted half an inch toward the exit. Trunks saw the movement and returned to the conduit before his mentor could catch him watching. Bulma had selected one precise moment in history. Age 764 marked Goku's return from Yardrat, the final period when Earth still possessed its strongest defender and the last point she could calculate with surviving records. The probe carried no passenger compartment. Its mission required only a brief appearance near Earth, a scan of the temporal environment, and an automatic recall. Bulma entered the final coordinates. Trunks withdrew from beneath the frame and raised his thumb. Gohan remained beside the door.
Launch in 5.
Metal shutters closed around the platform. The chamber lights dimmed as every available generator transferred power into the machine. At 0, the probe vanished inside a white distortion that folded inward and left the launch braces empty. For several seconds, the console displayed clean telemetry. Then the mass indicator climbed far beyond the probe's design limit. Bulma struck the emergency release. The return field activated, with enough force to rupture 3 underground power lines, and something enormous began materializing above the surface. In age 764, Goku's stolen Ginyu Force spacecraft had nearly completed its journey to Earth. Yardrat remained far behind him. During the trip, he had practiced the delicate concentration required for instant transmission, eaten the last ration pack, and wondered whether Gohan had grown taller during his absence. Earth already filled the forward viewport. Then a compact machine appeared beside the pod without warning. Symbols raced across its hull, and Capsule Corp markings covered one damaged panel. A sphere of pale energy expanded from the probe. The field enclosed both vehicles before Goku could reach the controls. Space vanished from the viewport. Every alarm inside the pod activated at once.
That's probably bad.
The 2 machines collided inside the distortion. Their hulls locked together, spun through a tunnel of fractured light, and burst into the atmosphere of age 780 trailing fire. Survivors across the ruined outskirts heard the impact. Goku's pod struck first, carving through an abandoned rail line and burying itself in the side of a collapsed residential block. The temporal probe tore free during descent and crashed several hundred meters away. Concrete slabs jumped from the ground. Dust rolled between roofless buildings. Inside the pod, Goku hung against his restraints while sparks fell from the control panel. He unfastened himself, kicked the warped hatch open, and climbed into a world he could not recognize. West City's outer districts had once spread across the horizon. Rows of blackened towers now broke that skyline. Vegetation pushed through fractured roads. No traffic moved. No aircraft crossed the clouds. Behind him, the pod's engine released one final pulse and died. Goku rose above the crash site and pressed 2 fingers to his forehead. His search began with Gohan. No familiar answer reached him. He expanded his concentration toward Piccolo, Krillin, Vegeta, Tien, Yamcha, Master Roshi, and Chi-Chi. Weak human lives remained scattered through underground shelters and distant settlements. The powerful signatures he remembered had vanished. Goku descended into the nearest street and followed a faint cluster of people beneath a damaged transit station. Several survivors watched him through gaps in a barricade. One elderly man held a Red Ribbon-era rifle with both arms braced against the recoil stock. A child behind him wore a patched jacket bearing an old Turtle School emblem.
Hey, I'm looking for my family. Gohan, Chi-Chi, maybe Bulma Brief. Do you know where they are?
The rifle barrel dipped, then rose again when the man studied Goku's unchanged face. A public emergency terminal stood against the station wall. Half its screen had burned out, yet the surviving section displayed the date, age 780. Beneath it, a repeating warning ordered all civilians to avoid androids 17 and 18. Goku tapped the display twice and checked the numbers again. The old man pulled the child farther behind the barricade, insisting that Son Goku had died years before the androids came, that everybody knew that. Goku turned from the terminal. The man's rifle shook against the concrete brace, and he stammered that this was a trick, that they had used voices before, faces too.
I don't know any androids 17 or 18. I was coming home from Yardrat.
The child leaned around the old man's coat and stared at the orange gi, whispering that Gohan wore that symbol. At the sound of his son's name, Goku stepped closer. Every weapon behind the barricade snapped toward him. The survivors said Son Gohan still fought for Earth. Their descriptions spoke of an adult warrior with golden hair and one arm. High above the district, Android 17 stood on the wing of an abandoned passenger aircraft lodged between 2 towers. The fiery trail had pulled him from a highway miles away. Android 18 floated beside the wreckage of the temporal probe, one hand resting against its scorched capsule corp panel. 17 cared about the larger alien craft. 18 studied the smaller machine. Its alloys matched technology she had seen during raids on West City facilities, while the encrypted components carried Bulma's manufacturing signatures.
Alien ship, big crash. Maybe today won't be boring.
The other machine matters.
She pulled a damaged data plate from the probe and turned it beneath the gray daylight. The emergency recall log had been burned into the internal memory. A human biological mass had traveled with it. Both androids followed the path of broken buildings toward the transit station. The survivors heard the androids before Goku saw them. Boots scraped backward behind the barricade. The old man's rifle slid from its concrete rest and struck the floor. Outside, 17 landed in the center of the street. 18 descended beside him, carrying a twisted section of the probe beneath one arm. Red ribbon insignias marked their clothing. Goku walked through the station entrance and positioned himself between them and the civilians. 17's gaze traveled from Goku's boots to the symbol on his gi.
So the records were right. Goku.
The age is wrong.
You two work for the Red Ribbon Army?
Dr. Gero made us. Killing you was part of his original plan.
Goku scratched the back of his head once, then lowered his hand when 17 raised a finger toward the shelter.
The strange part is that you don't know us.
18 dropped the probe fragment onto the road. A Capsule Corp serial number remained visible under the soot. Her attention stayed on Goku's face while she assembled the evidence. The spacecraft had been alien. The smaller machine belonged to Bulma. Its recall field had carried a living passenger. This version of Goku still wore the clothes from his return journey and knew nothing about the android war.
Bulma pulled him here.
17's mouth lifted. A dead target had stepped out of history and landed in front of them with abilities Gero's data never recorded. Behind Goku, a section of the barricade creaked as survivors retreated into the tunnel. Goku rolled his shoulders and shifted his feet across the fractured pavement.
I'm confused about most of this. I understand the part where you're threatening those people.
17 disappeared from his sight. A fist drove into Goku's abdomen and launched him through the shell of a delivery truck. Steel folded around his back. Before he could clear the wreckage, 17 caught his ankle and hurled him across the intersection. Goku struck the road, rolled beneath a second kick, and answered with a punch that 17 blocked using one forearm. In base form, Goku could follow pieces of the android's movement. His body could not keep pace long enough to control the exchange. 17 attacked without the smallest fluctuation in energy. Goku searched for ki and found only the living signatures hidden under the station. The absence created a blind spot unlike anything he had encountered. Gero's creation carried tremendous force inside a body that produced no readable power. 17 drove Goku toward the transit entrance, forcing every defense to take the survivors into account. Goku caught one strike, planted both boots, and stopped sliding inches from a cracked support column. Golden light erupted around him. Windows burst along the street. Dust lifted from the road and spun outward, while the Super Saiyan transformation sharpened his features and raised his hair. 17's next punch missed. Goku struck him in the ribs, crossed behind him, and knocked him through 2 concrete dividers before the android adjusted. Gero's combat records had ended before Goku reached this state. The transformation exceeded every prediction stored in 17's memory. For the first stretch of the battle, Goku controlled the distance. He used feints to pull reactions from 17, tracked his body through sound, and watched loose debris move before each charge. 17 adapted after several exchanges. He stopped announcing his attacks with displaced rubble, changed direction above the street, and forced Goku to rely on sight. Their fists collided over the ruined district. The pressure crushed the roof of an empty warehouse below them. Goku pushed harder, yet 17's movements remained clean. No fatigue entered his breathing. No strain slowed his limbs. The android's energy supply continued at full output, while every burst from Goku consumed stamina.
You're stronger than the file said.
You're a lot tougher than somebody I can't sense.
18 watched long enough to confirm the pattern. Goku could pressure 17 for short intervals. Time favored the androids. She rose from the street and entered the fight with a kick aimed behind Goku's neck. He ducked, turned, and blocked her second strike with both forearms. 17 hit him from the opposite side. Goku tore through the wall of a residential tower and emerged from another floor before the structure collapsed. Fighting one invisible energy source had forced him to rebuild his instincts. 2 bodies with endless stamina made prolonged combat impossible. He fired a broad energy wave between them and used the smoke to descend toward the survivors. 18 crossed the blast first. Her hand closed around his wrist before he could reach the station. Far beneath another section of the city, future Gohan stopped beside the bunker's sealed door. The golden energy above the ruins had touched senses trained through 13 years of combat. Its texture belonged to childhood memories, the battlefield on Namek, the return from space, and a father whose presence had once made every danger feel temporary. Gohan's fingers pressed against the metal door until the plate bent around them. In the operations room, Trunks also lifted his head.
That's a Super Saiyan.
Stay with your mother.
Trunks pushed away from the console.
If it's him, you'll need help.
Gohan released the door panel and faced him. The empty sleeve against his left side moved in the ventilation draft.
Bulma needs you here. Protect the machine.
The lock opened before Trunks could answer, and Gohan vanished up the access shaft. Bulma's monitor continued processing the failed return sequence. The probe itself had vanished from her instruments, yet the receiving platform retained a full mass transfer record. She isolated the excess material and found organic compounds, atmospheric residue, and the hull signature of a Ginyu Force spacecraft. Trunks leaned over her shoulder. The biological reading matched archived medical data stored under one Capsule Corp family profile. Bulma's hand stopped above the keyboard. 16 years of age separated the record from the man who had just arrived. The sample still belonged to Son Goku.
The probe didn't bring back information.
Trunks looked from the screen toward the ceiling where Gohan had disappeared. Bulma enlarged the readout until Goku's name filled the monitor.
It brought him.
Gohan crossed the ruined city at full speed. The android's lack of detectable energy prevented him from locating the battle directly. Goku's Super Saiyan aura served as the beacon. Each flare carried another impact through the skyline. The timing confirmed 2 opponents. Gohan accelerated until the remaining windows below shattered in his wake. His plan had always been to face 17 and 18 within 3 days, after securing Trunks inside the bunker and leaving Bulma enough supplies to continue. He had hidden the date from both of them. Now the father buried 16 years earlier was fighting in the same district, and Gohan's prepared death had lost the privacy he depended upon. 18 twisted Goku's captured arm, while 17 drove a knee toward his ribs. Goku broke her grip, blocked the knee, and took a backhand across the face from 18. He struck the ground near the station entrance. The survivors deeper inside screamed when concrete split above them. 17 landed beside the crater.
Maybe we should keep him alive. Bulma went through a lot of trouble to bring him here.
He can tell us where she is once he understands the date.
Goku pushed himself upright and wiped blood from his mouth with his wrist.
I really can't.
17 lifted his palm toward the station. A sphere of energy formed inches from Goku's face. Golden light cut across the street from the opposite direction. Gohan struck 18 in the side before she could turn. The blow carried her through the front of a parking structure. He landed between Goku and 17 with his remaining fist raised. Goku recognized the energy before he fully saw the man producing it. The adult face carried scars across the brow and cheek. Golden hair rose above, features hardened by years Goku had never lived. The left sleeve ended at the shoulder. Gohan's orange gi had been repaired so many times that several shades of cloth crossed the chest and legs.
Gohan?
Gohan's boots touched the road. His gaze fixed on his father's face, then moved to the Yardrat clothing beneath the torn gi. His raised fist lowered several inches. 17 exploited the pause. His palm shot toward Gohan's unguarded ribs. Goku intercepted the strike with his forearm and redirected it into the pavement. The road burst beneath them. Gohan recovered and drove his knee into 17's chest, sending the android upward. Goku followed, yet his first movement placed him directly across Gohan's attack line. Gohan canceled a one-handed blast to avoid hitting him. 18 returned from the shattered parking structure and attacked Gohan's missing side. Goku rushed to cover it, treating the opening as a weakness requiring constant protection. Gohan rotated his shoulder, released a short burst of ki from the empty side, and disrupted 18's approach. Goku crossed into that same space and took the edge of the blast against his back. Father and son had known each other instantly. Their bodies knew different partners. Goku remembered a child who fought with 2 arms and hesitated before every dangerous exchange. Gohan had built 13 years of movement around one arm, shifting his center of gravity through the hips and using injuries to create narrow counterattacks. Every time Goku tried to shield him, he closed an angle Gohan intended to use. Every time Gohan yielded space for Goku's techniques, the androids divided them. 17 caught Goku from behind. 18 drove Gohan through the shell of a bus. Goku reached for his son before attacking the nearer enemy, and Gohan tore himself from the wreckage to block the strike meant for his father. Their brief moments of success came from instinct. Goku fired a low Kamehameha that forced 17 into the air. Gohan met him above the blast and hammered him back down. 18 attacked Gohan during the descent, and Goku redirected her with a kick. The combination lasted seconds. 17 rose from the crater without a change in output, while 18 still carried no sign of fatigue. Gohan's breathing had grown rough. Blood ran from a cut above his brow and traced one scar into his hairline. Goku's Super Saiyan aura flickered at the edges after the earlier fight. The androids separated again, controlling both sides of the street. Goku searched the district for an escape target. The nearby survivors possessed ki, but teleporting directly among them would lead 17 and 18 to the shelter. Goku moved back to back with Gohan for the first time. Their shoulders touched briefly, one solid and one ending beneath an empty sleeve.
Is there anyone strong far from here? Somebody you trust?
Gohan tracked 18 through the dust, crossing her boots.
Trunks. Underground, northwest of the city.
Goku closed his eyes for less than a second and expanded his search. Thousands of weak signatures covered the region. Beneath layers of stone and steel, one young power stood beside Bulma. Its restrained energy still carried the distinct pressure of a Super Saiyan. Goku found it. 17 recognized the fingers rising toward Goku's forehead and surged forward before the technique could begin. Goku dropped his hand and thrust both palms toward the androids.
Solar flare!
White light filled the street. 17 turned too late. 18 covered her face, and Goku moved through the glare using Gohan's energy as his guide. His hand closed around Gohan's right shoulder. Gohan reacted by catching Goku's sleeve, understanding the escape before hearing an explanation. 2 fingers touched Goku's forehead again. He locked onto Trunks beneath the city. The ruined street vanished around them. 17's fist crossed the space where Goku's head had been, while 18's boot struck only drifting dust. Goku and Gohan materialized inside the hidden bunker. Trunks stood directly in front of them with one hand on his sword. The sudden arrival forced him backward into Bulma's console. Gohan steadied himself against a support beam. Goku released his shoulder and studied the unfamiliar young Super Saiyan signature he had followed. Lavender hair framed a face carrying Bulma's features and Vegeta's sharp focus. The sword, Capsule Corp jacket, and defensive stance offered no explanation for the connection.
Gohan!
Trunks caught his mentor before Gohan's knees struck the floor. Goku looked between him and Bulma. Bulma had aged 16 years since the morning he expected to see her. Fine lines crossed her face, and silver threaded the hair above her ears. She stared at him without moving from the console. Back at the battlefield, the solar flare faded. 17 swept the empty street for any sign of movement. No aircraft had escaped. No tunnel had opened. Goku and Gohan had vanished at the exact moment Goku touched his forehead. 18 returned to the temporal wreckage and removed the probe's protected memory casing. Its outer shell had survived the crash because Bulma designed it to preserve return data.
He ran.
He relocated.
She replayed the seconds before Goku disappeared and watched his hand contact Gohan. The technique required intent, physical contact, and a destination she could not identify. The androids themselves offered Goku no detectable energy to follow. Capsule Corp's machine offered something more useful, a route toward the people who understood how he had arrived. 17 walked to the alien pod and tore its remaining control assembly from the crater. The technology had little immediate value, yet the craft confirmed Goku's account. He had been traveling through space when Bulma's probe caught him. 18 studied the damaged Capsule Corp encryption on the memory casing. Several files remained locked, including the receiving unit's identification code. Random destruction had filled their years because no opponent could endure them, and no destination mattered. Goku had survived a direct fight, escaped through an unknown technique, and left behind a machine linked to Bulma. For the first time in years, 17 and 18 had a hunt with an answer waiting at the end. They carried the probe away from the district. Inside the bunker, Bulma lifted a compact scanner and aimed it at Goku's chest. He allowed the beam to pass over him. The screen confirmed body temperature, heartbeat, Saiyan cellular structure, and several scars entered into her childhood records. Bulma still refused to lower the scanner. Android technology had imitated voices, faces, and distress calls before.
What did you give me during the fight with Piccolo at the tournament?
Goku searched his memory.
You yelled at me for losing your capsule case. I gave you the broken strap and said the capsules were probably still near the arena.
Bulma's thumb slipped from the scanner trigger. That exchange had occurred away from cameras, before Gero's surveillance data covered their lives. Bulma set the scanner on the console with enough force to crack its casing. She crossed the bunker, stopped within arm's reach of Goku, and pressed 2 fingers against the fabric over his chest. A pulse beat beneath them. Her hand remained there until the rhythm repeated. Then she stepped back and struck him across the face.
You were supposed to be dead.
Goku accepted the blow. Bulma turned away, pulled a chair toward Gohan, and opened the medical compartment without explaining the water gathering along her lower lashes. Trunks stared at Goku while supporting Gohan's back. Goku touched the mark on his cheek and finally saw the framed photograph beside Bulma's console. Vegeta, Bulma, and an infant with lavender hair. Gohan spoke while Bulma cleaned the cut above his brow. He described the years in plain order. The Goku of this timeline had returned from Yardrat, lived long enough to resume life with his family, and died from a heart disease before the android attack. 6 months later, Dr. Gero's creations appeared. Piccolo fell in battle, taking Kami and Earth's Dragon Balls with him. Vegeta died. Krillin, Yamcha, Tien, and Chiaotzu followed. Gohan had survived long enough to become Earth's remaining defender. Each name altered Goku's posture by another degree. His hands rested flat against his knees while he listened. He did not interrupt until Gohan named Trunks as Bulma and Vegeta's son. Goku looked at Trunks again. Vegeta's pride lived in the teenager's upright shoulders, while Bulma's habit of studying machinery appeared in the grease beneath his fingernails.
Vegeta had a son?
He had a son for less than a year before they killed him.
Trunks removed his sword and placed it against the wall. He had grown up with photographs, brief stories, and Bulma's refusal to turn Vegeta into a kinder man after death. Meeting Goku offered a different problem. This was the warrior Gohan mentioned whenever training became unbearable, the father whose arrival had once ended impossible battles. Trunks had expected a towering legend. The man sitting across from him wore torn clothes, carried fresh bruises, and kept looking toward Gohan's missing arm. Goku asked about Chi-Chi. Gohan's medical cloth stopped against his forehead. She had survived the early attacks and moved to an isolated community near Mount Paozu. Gohan had kept his distance to prevent the androids from following him there. He sent information through intermediaries and watched the region from far beyond visual range. Goku absorbed the answer without challenging it. The same protective instinct had guided many of his own choices. Here, it had left Chi-Chi separated from her son while both remained alive. He placed his hands on his knees and bowed his head toward Gohan.
I'm sorry you carried all of this.
Gohan secured the bandage with his teeth in one hand.
You didn't leave us. The man who belonged here died.
Bulma returned to the launch data before either Saiyan could answer. The receiving platform had stored the temporal mass record even after the probe disappeared. She matched Goku's Yardrat clothing, the Ginyu Force pod signature, and the coordinates from the launch. The result ended the possibility of a constructed duplicate. Goku had physically left age 764. Every atom recorded during transit belonged to the same body now sitting in her bunker.
You weren't copied. My probe extracted you.
Goku leaned toward the monitor while Bulma displayed the branch calculation. His source Earth had lost him shortly before Mecha Frieza and King Cold were due to arrive. The names forced Goku to his feet. He had expected to reach Earth before Frieza, using instant transmission once the enemy entered sensing range. Without him, the planet faced two powerful invaders. Vegeta and the others were still far below Frieza's strength at that point. Bulma could not determine whether time continued normally in the source branch after extraction. The probe might have formed a separate branch the moment it removed him. It might return him close to the departure instant. It might already be connected to an Earth where Frieza had completed his attack. The intact navigation core contained the best record of the route, and Android 18 had taken it from the crash. Goku paced once across the narrow room and stopped beside the damaged receiving platform. Its capacitors had melted into the housing. The return cradle had been built for a probe a fraction of his spacecraft's mass, and pulling both vehicles through time had destroyed every major component.
I can rebuild hardware. I can't recreate coordinates I never received.
Trunks placed the surviving telemetry on the main display. A thin stream of corrupted data continued from the probe's diagnostic channel. The signal weakened with every transmission. Somewhere above them, 18 possessed the machine holding Goku's route home. Recovering it could save another Earth. Chasing it could lead both androids directly to every survivor sheltered beneath West City. Gohan pushed away from the medical chair. His injuries had already begun closing under Saiyan endurance.
Then we recover it.
Bulma shut off the display.
You were planning to fight them in 3 days before any of this happened.
Trunks turned toward his mentor. Gohan's face remained still, yet his right hand covered the knot securing his empty sleeve. Bulma opened a concealed locker and removed a pack containing medical supplies, dried food, and a replacement gi. Gohan had prepared it days earlier. The pack held enough for one final excursion and no return provisions. Trunks recognized his own handwriting on one of the food labels. He had stocked the supplies without knowing their purpose. Trunks set the pack on the floor between them.
You were going alone.
Gohan reached for it. Trunks planted one boot on the strap. The teenager who had obeyed every order at the launch door now refused to move.
If both of us die, your mother has nobody.
You decided I'd lose you without telling me.
Gohan's fingers remained around the top handle. Every previous battle had taught him the same lesson. Bringing Trunks increased the number of lives he could fail to protect. Every year had also pushed Trunks closer to fighting without him. Goku watched the exchange from beside the console, hearing an argument built long before his arrival. Goku stepped between the packed supplies and the bunker exit. Gohan's attention sharpened at once.
You've been here for hours.
Long enough to know dying won't protect them for very long.
Waiting won't protect anyone either.
The answer carried no raised voice. Gohan pointed toward the ceiling with 2 fingers. Beyond the bunker, scattered survivors changed shelters every week, while 17 and 18 erased another district. He had lived through the consequences of delay, retreat, and failed preparation. Goku had arrived with memories of a world where stronger allies still answered his energy.
You know how fighters grow. I know what happens when these two get bored.
Bulma placed herself beside the console, claiming the authority of the person who kept the resistance supplied.
Neither of you controls this alone.
She assigned the problem in visible pieces. Goku understood combat adaptation and possessed their only reliable emergency extraction technique. Gohan knew the android's habits, favored attacks, and pursuit patterns. Trunks understood the prototype's construction well enough to identify the temporal core. Bulma controlled the shelters, communication routes, and repair network. Each had information the others lacked. A solo attack would discard 3/4 of their advantage before the battle began. Gohan released the pack. Goku moved away from the door. The concession lasted until Bulma displayed the probe's fading diagnostic pulse. Trunks leaned close and traced the receiver identification buried beneath damaged encryption. The androids could perform the same work with enough time. If 18 extracted the bunker's registration, she would gain the first direct link to Bulma's surviving infrastructure. Gohan looked around the room, cots arranged near ventilation pipes, medical shelves filled with ration supplies, children's drawings taped beside emergency maps, and the temporal platform that had exposed them. This place had sheltered dozens of people through raids and winter shortages. Its life had acquired an expiration time. Miles away, 18 connected the probe's memory casing to an old Capsule Corp terminal inside an abandoned research station. Security routines rejected her first intrusion. She removed the terminal's outer panel and bypassed the damaged authentication module. 17 sat on a broken desk, tossing a metal bolt toward the ceiling and catching it before each impact. The screen released one line of unencrypted information. Receiving unit origin, age 780, Capsule Corporation, designer identification B. Brief. 18 stopped the decode before the remaining system could erase itself. She had no bunker coordinates yet. Old Capsule Corp facilities covered West City, and Bulma had used several during the war. The search now possessed a starting point. Back underground, Bulma began copying essential files onto portable drives. Trunks pulled fuel cells from the temporal platform. Gohan opened the evacuation map and marked the routes least likely to attract aerial attention. Goku stood beneath the reinforced ceiling and listened to the weak human signatures spread across the bunker. His arrival had saved Gohan from one scheduled battle. It had also given the androids a machine that could expose every shelter connected to Bulma's network. The future had gained another Super Saiyan and lost its remaining anonymity during the same afternoon. Above them, abandoned Capsule Corp towers flickered to life one after another. 18's search program entered dormant infrastructure, tested forgotten receiver codes, and mapped every surviving response. 17 watched red points appear across the city. Random targets had once satisfied him for an hour at a time. Now each signal led toward Bulma, Gohan, Trunks, and the warrior who had escaped his hands. The androids left the research station carrying the damaged probe. Their first destination glowed on the display beneath the ruins of West City, close enough for the resistance to hear distant explosions before the evacuation had begun. With the damaged Capsule Corp probe in their possession, androids 17 and 18 have unlocked Bulma's receiver codes and are actively hunting down the surviving resistance network. Can Goku, Gohan, and Trunks combine their strengths to reclaim the navigation core before every shelter is blasted to dust? The countdown to destruction has already begun. Find out on the next thrilling episode of this Dragon Ball What If.